Hello and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Westside Congregation and the Flower Communion Service. I'm Carol Eaglehart. Our speaker today is the Reverend Dr. Nancy Hitt, the consulting minister for this congregation. Our program today is titled Those Bloomin' UUs. It's based on principle number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And source number 1, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which created and uphold life. We hope that you'll find these illustrated in some exciting new ways that enrich your life today. Our thanks to Jimmy Stevens, who tapes, edits, and uploads this service video, and to Bramcast Hecht, who also will be making an in-person appearance for our Animal Ministry moment. If you've never attended UU Westside before, where have you been? Welcome. And if you have any questions or comments, you can contact the church office as listed on our website, office@uuwestside.org. We'll hope that you'll join us when we're able to meet on site in the future. This week, our announcements focus on the email that you received several days ago. That email reminded you of the announcement that Steve Poyani made on behalf of the board, deferring reopening of our sanctuary in keeping with the official UUA guideline until May 2021. Now, the board will meet to review this on August 23rd and again on December 13th as needed. Please let your board know what you think and feel about this. They need your input to make the best decisions for our congregational safety. Also in your email is the concern that our building is in desperate need of repair. We have multiple areas of wood rot. Small desert animals have nested inside our walls. Yep, not good. After evaluating the extent of the damage and measuring the areas involved, our best estimate is that it will take about $650 to purchase the materials. We plan on using volunteer labor to replace the rotted wood. We don't have any money in our budget for this, so we're asking our members and friends to contribute to a building maintenance fund so that the building will be in good shape when we're ready to return to it. If we leave it as is, the rot will expand. The desert animals might be delighted, but we're not likely to be. So please mail your contribution to P.O. Box 15146, Rio Rancho 87124. Mark it Building Maintenance Fund. Our final announcement today is that we're in the process of forming a website renewal team. Now, this is not a techie group. You don't have to have any special skills. We're looking for people who'd like to daydream about what kind of website would best represent us in the community and build meaningful connections among us now. If you're interested in dreaming big and attending a Zoom meeting to help create this, please email Reverend Nancy at ministeruuwc@gmail.com. Shalom. If you have a personal chalice or candle that you would like to light at home, please draw it closer now. Join me in speaking the words of our chalice lighting as they appear on the screen before you. May the light from our chalice show us the path of history. May it illuminate our roots, warm our hearts, and inspire our future. Shalom and blessed be. Please join me in affirming our aspirations as the words appear before you. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, We gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Shalom. Each week we give and receive gifts of love and commitment for the work of this congregation. Thank you for continuing your pledges and other financial gifts during the pandemic. It's vital to our survival since there's little difference in our expenses despite not holding services on site. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 15146 in Rio Rancho, or you can use the PayPal button on our website. Please be sure to indicate if your contribution is part of your pledge or if it's designated toward the building fund. Thank you for your generosity. If you like, join me in the song that we often use for our offering. From you I've received, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Hi, I'm so happy to be back in the sanctuary to give you the animal ministry moment. This week is going to be kitties. And this first book says, it's so wonderful to watch an animal because an animal has no opinion about itself. It just is. This poem is called I'm a Hero. Visionary, revolutionary, vanguard, hero. These will be my names. These will be my legacy. These will be the chants that will greet me when I'm released from the bathroom. For my time out, as everyone agrees, someone, anyone, had to end the tyranny of those hideous drapes in the den.
I invite you now to sit comfortably in your chair, upright and yet relaxed. Gently close your eyes. Begin to focus on your breathing, in and out, fully and deeply, letting your mind go blank. Just sit with yourself in peace. And into that stillness, let a rich spot of earth appear, lush with growing things. Recognize the garden of yourself. Observe it. Walk around it. Explore the variety of color and scent. Are there plants that you recognize? Are there plants that are new to you? Is there fruit or flowers? Are there vegetables in your garden? Look closely for special stones and small creatures. Take note of what lives in your garden. When you have absorbed this image into your heart, return your focus to your breathing. In and out, slowly and deeply, and return your focus to the here and now. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Shalom. Today, we mark a mix of personal joys and community concerns. With Stacy, we rejoice at the birth of Alexander, the newest addition to the family she nannies for. Alexander arrived at 6 pounds 7 ounces and is a healthy newborn. Laurel is joyous at the opportunity for personal and professional growth that has occurred in her daughter's life. Despite the pandemic, she will be moving to California and beginning a new career through an internship at a winery. Carol shares with us the kindness of Jackie in dropping off soup and cookies and goodies while Carol was quarantining after returning from Florida. It helped her to feel connected and brought her joy. On behalf of our larger community, we express deep concern for the racial violence our nation has experienced. For all those suffering the oppression of racism, we work for relief. For those grieving the loss of life due to police violence, we hold sympathy in their grief. For those who perpetuate racial injustice and violence, knowingly or unknowingly, we hold deep sorrow and also hope. Sorrow at the travesty of people oppressing people. Hope that our increasing awareness will affect both systemic and individual changes that will work together to repair our nation's history of racial oppression and violence. For all of the victims of racial violence, past and present, we light this special red candle. We will continue to light it during joys and concerns until there are no more victims of racial violence and oppression. For all of these things, for all that we still hold in our hearts and minds, we light one final candle. Shalom. So a question for us today is, how does your garden grow? Here are some scientific facts about the likes and dislikes of a variety of plants. Many times people think that we can plant anything we want in good soil and it will thrive. However, it simply isn't so. It actually depends on which plants we put together. They are not all one big happy community. For example, potatoes don't play well with cucumbers, melons, tomatoes, squash, turnips, or sunflowers. Both peas and beans have negative effects on some plants, including all kinds of peppers, sweet and hot, and beets are also affected by pole beans of all kinds. Neither broccoli nor cauliflower will grow well near peppers, strawberries, tomatoes, or squash of all types, including zucchini squash and yellow squash, and winter squash like pumpkins. And asparagus really does not like anyone. It is especially vulnerable to poor growth when planted next to onions, garlic, or potatoes. Brussels sprouts do not like strawberries or tomatoes. And carrots won't grow well beside dill. Celery hates potatoes and parsnips. Corn and tomatoes should be kept apart. They're both susceptible to the same fungus and will infect one another if one of them gets it. Cucumbers do not like to be planted near potatoes, tomatoes, or cauliflower, or any of the strong aromatic herbs like cilantro, basil, rosemary, thyme, or lavender. And keep your lettuce away from beans, beets, and parsley. Onions actually stunt the growth of beans and peas. So apparently, life is not easy in the plant world. Combining the wrong plants in the same community makes all of them unhappy. So consider these pairs that work really well together. Roses love lavender. Radishes work well with cucumbers. Corn and beans go together. Tomatoes and cabbage. Marigolds protect melons. Nasturtiums work really well with cucumber. Lettuce goes well with potatoes. Pumpkin with beans. Lupin and strawberries work well together. Dill and tomatoes. Clover and cannabis. And mint and cabbage are really good friends. Now, some of those are unlikely combos from our point of view, but these plants team up in some unique ways. Some of them produce repellents that protect their partners from either bugs or fungus. Others enrich the soil with what other plants need. Scientists say that if we pay attention to our gardens and respect the likes and dislikes of what we're planting, everything will grow better. It's called companion planting. I find it intriguing that nature has elements that work well together and others that don't. Nature also has what we often call invasive plants. They tend to grow quickly, seed prolifically, and are able to grow in less than ideal circumstances. Many of them are not native to the areas in which they are regarded as invasive. Many of them are beautiful, but risky to cultivate lest they take over your whole garden. In each instance, the invasive plant flourishes, changing the landscape around it. Now, we can plant kid-friendly gardens, pet-friendly gardens, and yes, seriously, we can even plant chicken-friendly gardens. When it comes to plants, we seem to be able, somewhat, to withhold negative judgment and plant them in groups that will thrive. I am sure that you can apply the metaphor as well as I. What would the world look like if we respected each other and lived in communities that maximized that without scorn or harsh critique for anyone else? As we pursue our UU Flower Communion in story and in practice today, I think that's well worth thinking about. Now, I have a very special guest for us this morning. This is a new friend of mine that I would like to introduce to all of you. And her name is Olivia. And as you can see, Olivia is an ostrich. Yes, Olivia and I have become good friends, and she's going to help me with our coping with Corona moment for this morning, because we have a very special way of showing how we can cope just a little bit better or differently than we have been. So here's the thing. I'd like you to think about social bubbles. A bubble is a small group of people from 2 to 5 with whom you have established common safety practices, and now you feel safe with that person or those people. So if you've all kept yourselves isolated except for essential trips for food and meds, and everybody wears a mask when they go out, the people in your social bubble have established the same level of safety for themselves that you have. You're all equally safe from the virus with each other. So here's what you get to do. And this is where Olivia is a big help because, well, seriously, it worked better. There we go, bubbles. We have bubbles. The idea being that social bubbles are fun, just like every other kind of bubble. Thank you, Olivia. And we can form these social bubbles so that Olivia and I, for example, we're in a social bubble together because we quarantine together. I know that she hasn't been anywhere unsafe. She knows that I haven't been anywhere unsafe, that she hasn't also been. So whatever our biome is, we share it. So we can get together. She can come to my house or here to the church with me, and we can be sociable. Actually, because we live together, we don't have to keep that 6-foot distance. But if you're doing a social bubble with other people outside your household, you will want to maintain the appropriate 6-foot minimum social distance between yourself and them. So you can get in your car, which is its own kind of special little social bubble, and drive over to see your friends with whom you've already had a conversation establishing that you share the same boundaries. And you can visit. You can be face to face, yes, which is so nice. It makes such a difference in how we feel connected to each other. So I'm recommending, Olivia recommends, that you consider establishing a social bubble. Now, you don't want to have 25 social bubbles because that's like cheating and ends up spreading things in lots of different directions that you might not want them to go. But to have one, possibly two, groups, all of which are maintaining safety precautions in the same way, and you've established a solid level of trust about that, well then, you can go and visit. You can sit outside, especially because now the weather is really good, and enjoy the sunset perhaps, or the evening breeze, whatever appeals to you. You can enjoy each other's yards and gardens, and you can be face to face with people that mean a lot to you and that you care about. And we've discovered that that is an essential service. We need to be able to be with the people that we love. Yes. So, there's your social bubble as a way to cope with the coronavirus. Thank you, Olivia, for joining us this morning. And I'm going to let her go back down into her little hidey place here. And I hope you all enjoy your social bubbles. Now I would like to share with you the story of the first flower communion from our Unitarian Universalist history, because this is a real story of real events. And it goes like this. Jimmy, you're going to have to cut. Sorry. I would like to share with you now an historical reality from our Unitarian Universalist history. This is how our flower communion got started. The flower communion service was created by Norbert Čapek, who founded the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia. He introduced this special service to that church on June 4th, 1923. For some time, he had felt the need for a symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely together. The format had to be one that would not alienate anyone who had left other religious traditions. So he turned to the native beauty of the countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. It was such a success that it was held yearly just before the summer recess of the church, which no, we are not going to institute. However, the flower communion was brought to the United States in 1940 and introduced to members of our Cambridge, Massachusetts church by Dr. Čapek's wife, Maya Čapek. The Czech-born Maya had met Norbert Čapek in New York City while he was studying for his PhD. The Čapeks returned to Czechoslovakia in 1921 and established the dynamic liberal church in Prague. Maja Čapek was ordained in 1926. It was during her tour of the United States that Maja introduced the flower communion, which had been developed in the Prague church at the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Mass. Unfortunately, Maja was unable to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II, and it was not until the war was over that Norbert Čapek's death in a Nazi concentration camp was revealed. From this beginning, the service has spread to many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations and has been adapted along the way. Here's what Reverend Čapek did. He asked people to bring a flower of their own choice, either from their gardens or the field or even the roadside. When they arrived at church, there was a large vase that stood waiting in the vestibule, attended by 2 young members of the church school. Each person was asked to place their own flower in the vase. This signified that it was by their own free will that they joined with others. The vase that contained all the flowers was a symbol of the United Church Fellowship. The young attendants helped with the arrangement of the bouquet. Later, they carried it up to the front of the auditorium and placed it on a table there. Dr. Čapek then said a prayer, after which he walked over and consecrated the flowers while the congregation stood. The 2 attendants then took the vase back out to the vestibule. And then, after the service, as people left the church, they went to the vase and each one took a flower, but not the one that they had brought. They took a different one. The significance of the flower communion is that just as no 2 flowers are alike, so no 2 people are alike. Yet each has a contribution to make. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower. And thus it is within our church community. It would not be the same without each and every one of us. Thus, this service is a statement of our community. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in our search for truth, disregarding all that might divide us. Each person takes home a flower brought in by someone else, symbolizing our shared celebration in community. This community, communion, they go together. The 2 words have the same word root. This communion of sharing is essential to a free people of a free religion. It has occurred to me that when we are asked, as you use, to describe ourselves, few among us proudly proclaim, "We bloom." However, I think we should. The image of blooming conjures up growth and strength and beauty and creativity. It's a pleasant image, one in which we can imagine lovely sights and colors and scents, all different sorts of shape and design. It signifies life and health. When a person is healthy, we talk about the bloom in their cheeks because they're pink. Blooming is a really good thing. Besides which, if we answered the question, "What are UUs like?" with the answer, "We bloom," think of the response you'd get. If nothing else, people would be so startled that they'd be likely to ask a follow-up question. And that is how conversations are born, and that's how we engage with people in a meaningful way in regard to our faith. So consider, Those bloomin' you-yous, we bloom. Our flower communion is one of our central symbols for identification for ourselves as a community, and it's well worth sharing that with others as well. So today we are going to build our flower communion arrangement here a little bit differently than we might if we were meeting on site, because there is no way I could get y'all to bring a single flower up here and have it survive so I could use it for this. So I went to Sprouts and I went out into the field around the church, and we have a mixture of wild things that I have harvested from outside the church, as well as a whole lot of different kinds of flowers, and we're going to build an arrangement that symbolizes our community. So I want to start with what I pulled up literally by the root from outside. Most of us would look at it and go, it's a weed. And yes, when it was growing up between the bricks on our walkway out here, I looked at it and thought, ooh, that is a weed, and went to pull it. It was extraordinarily tenacious. I actually had to cut it. I couldn't even break the root. But it's only a weed because it was growing in a place where we don't want it. Otherwise, it's really actually quite lovely. It's feathery, it's a lovely soft green, and right now I'm especially enamored of it because it's got a good strong stalk, and I can put that right in the middle and I automatically have the foundation for our flower arrangement. Now there are other greens as well. Here's another one from outside our very own doors. As you can see, it's a little bit softer, more of a sagey green than this, which is a little more yellowy. Both of them are feathery, a trait that lots of different desert plants have. You can really see the root on this one. This one I did just pull right up. So I'm going to put that in here too. There we go. Now, we also have sunflowers. We have all different kinds of things. And we're just going to start tucking them in. One of the things that I have learned is that human beings, for some reason, you might think we like things in matched pairs so that there's balance and everything has its partner. Actually, that's not so. We find designs, be it flower arrangements, the colors of trim on our houses, those sorts of things, the most aesthetically appealing ones are the ones that are in odd numbers, where there aren't actual matching sets, but groups of 3 or 5, or some odd number that somehow intrigues us and is mostly symmetrical, but just a little bit off. There's something about that just a little bit off that works for us. It works for us aesthetically, and I would have to say it works for us when it comes to our community. Because if we all had to be perfect in order to belong to a community, we might have a lot of hermits. Because I, for one, know that I am not perfect, or my question for my family when they crack jokes about perfection is always, yeah, okay, so that's perfect, but my question is, perfectly what? Because the answer to that makes a huge difference. So, I'm going to work with odd-numbered groups where possible, and we're going to put all these different kinds of flowers into this pitcher. Now you notice that unlike the sunflowers, we've got chrysanthemums here, which are shaggy, kind of like the sunflower, but a whole different color. You know, they don't have the same sort of center. Again, to overwork a metaphor, which I'm going to do a lot here, that's just like us. How many times have you had a conversation with someone and walked away thinking, I don't know what's important to them. I know what's important to me, but it doesn't sound like that's the same thing that's important to them. And yet, we're all part of the same community. Somehow there's balance and symmetry and an ability to be companions and to work together toward a really good end result. And then, of course, we have roses. Now, I'm very pleased that most of these have been stripped of their thorns, because I, for one, am not fond of the thorns and bleeding from them. However, they are a lot like people insofar as most of us have a few thorns somewhere in our makeup. And we need to learn how to pull them in so that we can be part of something like this community, as well as how to use them appropriately for protection and strength and all of those sorts of things. So we have a couple of different colors of roses. I have peach, I have a pink, because even when we're looking at the same species or strain of flower, they're not all the same. Just like people. We could have a bunch of men, a bunch of women, a bunch of children, a bunch of adults, but we know that no two of them are exactly alike. And then I have some of these, I think they're some kind of mum. They actually puzzle me because the flowers are as green as the leaf. But there you go, variation on a theme. And into our picture they go. There we are. Now, I actually have another sunflower here, although that one looks like maybe it's not going to stand up too well. So we'll leave that one for the time being. And I will get my third peach-colored rose. And, of course, I got to tell you, what I'm looking at is different than what you're looking at. So think of this as a 360 design. And I will try to round it out there. This is one of my personal favorites, the carnation, because it smells spicy, and I love the fragrance of carnations. And they also grow really well and really easily. Now, here we have a yellow tulip. I have no clue why tulips were on sale at Sprouts, because this is not usually the time of year that we see a lot of tulips. But there they were, and they're this gorgeous bright yellow, which is a color that we often associate with hope. And right now, we need all the reminders of hope that we can surround ourselves with. So I invite you to enjoy the yellow of the tulips. And I'm going to tuck a bunch of these in here because our community is indeed filled with unexpected little pockets of hope. Wait a minute. There we go. Get that down in there. Of course, the other thing with flowers is that some of the stems are indeed fragile, just like some of us are fragile, and all of us are fragile in some ways at some times. So we do need to be careful about where and how we expect ourselves to be in community and how we take care of each other once we get there. Let's see, maybe one more over here for right now. And more fluffy chrysanthemums. And what else have we got here? We have, oh yes, this is one of my favorite things. I have no idea what this is. I gotta tell you, it feels leathery and almost like cabbage or something like that. And technically, I'm sure it's a green on a really big, heavy stalk. And it was in with the flowers, so somehow that's where it belongs. And then we have freesia, which has red and orange and yellow. We've got fire here. There's fire in our community, too, in terms of energy and passion and all sorts of good things. We need fire. We need it for warmth. We need it for light. And in communities, we need it to help hold us together and give us common cause. Well, not without hazard. Here we go. We'll just sort of, there. And now they're helping each other hold that one up. And here we have a somewhat limp, but nonetheless, this is a hydrangea. It's a one-of-a-kind in terms of what I have here, and we have one-of-a-kind of lots of different things in our own community. And this would be a spider mum, which is one of those things that as a kid I thought had kind of an icky name. Like, why would you call a flower after a bug? But when you look at the shape of the blossom, that sort of makes sense. It has all those little petals in a spidery kind of design. Again, lots of different shapes and colors and designs. Let's see here. All right. And we have lilies that add amazing color and a whole different shape to things. And another carnation. Because when we put all of this together, what we're looking at here is this huge bunch of color and scent and texture, from the feathery grasses to the smooth petals of the tulip and whatever this leathery stuff is over here on the back side. And then, oh yes, my personal favorite, the purple statice, which I'm going to trim just a little and put in the front. This happens to be the only thing that is blue or purple that I have. There we go. So there, and let's see, we can tuck in more. Now, as you might notice, I have more flowers than I have room for. And that is actually a good thing. Can you think about how much fun it would be if we had so many people in our community that we couldn't all fit in the sanctuary at the same time? If we had to have 2 services, if we had to get bigger, it would be amazing, and it would be wonderful. So sometimes that's what's called for, and who knows what the future will hold when it comes to that. We may discover at some point that we have outgrown our current facility and we need to move on, which would be a huge sort of decision and a very exciting one to need to make and respond to. Now, we also have these greens, no flowers attached, but I got to tell you, these leaves are really shiny. I have no idea what they will look like on your screen at home, but as I stand here looking at them, they have a very elegant shape. They're a deeper green than any of the other green stuff we put in, and they absolutely shine as if they've been waxed, and I promise they have not been. Because seriously, that's not something I spend my time doing. However, now, probably that's about all I'm going to be able to fit in to, let's see, I think there's always room for one more. Well, maybe not. Let's see. We'll pull that this way and tuck it down inside. Because not everything has to be on top. Or to quote my mother, not everything you want can be in the front, Nancy. So that's true with us too. As a community, we get together, and not everything that matters is on the surface or in the front. Sometimes you really have to connect and go deeper than that. Look behind a few things. Make new connections before you find the most meaningful part that you really were looking for in the first place. And then there is the need for things to move, to make room. And it happens. And all of a sudden we have more than what we had before, because one or another of us has moved aside and created room. However, I think that probably that is about the best that we can do with that. So I would like to do 2 things at this point. I would like to share with you Reverend Chapek's prayer of consecration, and I'm going to suggest that if you have flowers at home, that you pull them closer, that you hold them. I will repeat his prayer of consecration, and then there is also a second prayer that he used to say with his people for the actual communion part, the connection with other people, and that experience of community. So first we will consecrate our arrangement, and please just listen receptively as you hold your flowers at home, and then we will move into a little bit more of a guided meditation with his prayer for the actual communion. So the consecration goes like this. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our reputation, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Shalom. Now, I invite you to look at whatever flowers you may have at home, or to simply gaze at our arrangement here. If you have flowers with you, touch each one gently and speak the name of a person who is very important to you in your life. Each blossom here represents the unique humanity of different people in our congregation, and therefore they all deserve to be kindly touched. So please hold the people of your life in mind as you listen to Dr. Chapek's communion prayer. It goes like this. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of men and women the longing for people living in human love, in the name of the highest, in whom we move and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister what they are, in the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges one from another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Shalom and Amen. We hope this service has enlightened and inspired you. We also hope that you will tell us about your response to it. Please either share your comments in the comment section below the video on our webpage, or simply email me directly at ministeruuwc@gmail.com. Thank you. Please join me now in speaking the words of our Chalice Extinguishing as they appear on your screen before you. Our roots go deep. Our future opens before us. May we incorporate all we have seen and heard by the light of our chalice into the garden of our lives. May we bring beauty and nourishment for body and soul into being. Blessed be. May you find yourself planted in community in which you can thrive. May you be surrounded by beauty and nourishment of every sort. May you grow and contribute to healthy community all the days of your life. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere you go, whoever you are with, and however you have need. Shalom and amen.